I just came back last Saturday.
What part?
Sorry?
No,
What part were you at?
Go to New York. From here, where do you go? Go to the city.
Right.
You
No,
go
not
visit,
me.
You go visit relatives. So.
I went to Long Island.
Okay.
I went to the Hamptons.
Where Claire used to love to go.
Right. She loved it there.
Some time off, we would stay out there for a weekend. I think Montauk, I think she. South Shore, she said, you know, some resort place out there is artistic. Up by Montauk. I was showing this.
Please, everyone, help yourselves to water, and I have a second
Is that your
cooler in the
sister?
car. If you need some.
Is that your sister?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So we waited. Oh, we still have a minute.
Right on time, she is.
They are prompt. The other one is from Macy's or wherever.
Yeah, we would have said Manhattan.
Did you ever send
City.
this one back?
Yeah. That's not about the new one.
She's from
Because
the
it
Bronx.
happened.
Come up here. Sit here.
Take care. Keep it or send it back.
Yeah, Baltimore.
I'm from the Bronx.
Really? What part?
Also, Baltimore and Sedgwick Avenue.
Cedric. We live near, the Weeks Avenue was over where we live. And then my grandma was lived in Bronx.
Oh,
Pelham Parkway.
Oh, Pelham Parkway.
You tell me whenever you're ready to start.
Are we all here?
Everybody ready?
Yes.
We are? Okay.
Everybody's here? Okay. This is from the 121st Psalm. Esainai el haharim me'ayin yavo ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz. Al yatein lamot raglecha al yanum shomrecha. Kine lo yanum velo yishan shomer Yisrael Adonai shomrecha. Adonai tzilka al yad yaminecha. Yomam hashemesh lo yakeka. V'yareach b'layla. Adonai yishmorecha mikol ra. Yishmor et nafshecha. Adonai yishmor tzeit chaloecha me'ata v'yad olam. I will lift up mine eyes unto the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from the Lord, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. Behold, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all evil. He will keep your soul. The Lord will guard your going out and your coming in from this time forth. Forevermore. There's never a time like this that it's never a time to be inappropriate to use the 23rd Psalm. And the 23rd Psalm is used so often by Christians and Jews. This is not a even though the Psalms are part of what I would call the Hebrew Bible, and you might call the New Testament or the Old Testament, even though that's the case, we all share the 23rd Psalm. And I learned a long time ago from one of my professors that there was a reason that King David wrote it as he did. And when it says, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, which is the reason we use it at the moment like this. He was trying to say to people, don't get caught in the valley of the shadow of death. You have to walk through it. No matter the relationships, no matter who it is that has died, no matter our points of view about what is or what is not lying ahead for us, it is something that we should think about and not to get caught and not to make a cult out of death. And that's what happens all too often. So I'm going to read it. I'll read the Psalm in Hebrew. I know you don't know the Hebrew, but I'll read the Psalm in Hebrew, and then I'll say it in English, and if anybody wants to join, please feel free to do so. Adonai Rawi lo echsor bino deshe yar bitseni almei menuchot haleni. Nafshi shovei v'anchini b'maglei tzedek l'man shemo. Gam ki elech b'geit samavet lo irara ki ata imadi. Shivtecha u'mishantecha heima yenachamoni. Ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged sororai. Shanta v'shemen roshi kosiravaya. Ach tov v'chesed. Yerdafuni kol yamei chayai. Shavti b'veit Adonai la'orech yamim. For the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. And I shall dwell in the house of God. Hello. Poet has written, birth is a beginning. Death is a destination. Life itself is a journey, a growing from stage to stage. From childhood to maturity and from youth to age. From innocence to awareness, and from ignorance to knowing. From foolishness to discretion, and then perhaps to wisdom. From weakness to strength, or from strength to weakness, and often back again. From health to sickness, and back we pray to health again. From offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, from grief to understanding, and from fear to faith. From defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning. Death is a destination. But life itself is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage made stage by stage, from birth to death, to life that is everlasting. Dear friends, I know that this is always a difficult time, even when there are no official mourners, and I want to say a word about that first. I realize that you're mourning. I know that. And I also know that you may have some familiarity with Jewish life, but not a lot. So I want to share something with you about why we're here, because we are all here equally, all of us. Our tradition says that there are certain people who are mourners. Parents for children, shouldn't happen. Sometimes we say knock on wood, shouldn't happen. We don't say that, but you do. We say poo. But poo, it shouldn't happen, but it does. Children for parents. Brothers and sisters for one another. And spouses for one another. And those are the official mourners at a day like today. But the truth is that Claire doesn't have any mourners. You may mourn for her, and you may feel that she was a special part of your life, and that's very good. And you may mourn internally because she's gone. But I say we're all the same, because when our tradition speaks about who is a mourner, it's because mourners have certain obligations. And since there are no mourners here, there's nobody who has an obligation, whether it is to say certain words or not. On the other hand, given the fact that we are all mourners in some way or another, I think we all have certain obligations when somebody who doesn't have a mourner dies. And it's nice that you're all here. And I don't mean that in a patronizing way at all. I mean that very sincerely. Because most of the time, that's not what happens. Most of the time, when somebody who's a little distant dies, okay, we recognize it, but we don't have to go to their funeral. And so you're here today as friends and as family, and we're all sort of here together as mourners. Second thing I want to share with you, and I'll get to the substance of her life in a few moments, I promise. Second thing I want to share with you, and I know that many of you, and I'm looking at this side, not this side, that many of you are not Jewish. You may have Jewish roots. I understand that, but you're not Jewish. So I want to say some things to you about what it is that I think we have to think about at a moment like this. First, whether one is Jewish or not, when one loses somebody, no matter who they are, I think we have to grieve their loss. And this gives us a time to begin that process of grieving. However long it may last, it is a process, and it doesn't happen in these 30 minutes. It happens over a period of time. Because you will remember things about her life that may inspire you to do something. And that's a good thing to do. So our first purpose in being here is to grieve. Second purpose, and this is even more important. However many of us there are here, we have different perspectives about what's going to happen to us when we die. I was thinking about that the other day when you said to me, well, now she can go visit my dad. And I understand, believe me, I understand. I understand that. I also learned from another professor when I was in rabbinical school a long time ago, that all religions, I don't care which religion it is, all religions respond to the fact that we are finite beings living in an infinite world. All religions try to answer the meaning of that. And they come up with different answers. And they come up with different answers even within a religion. And I say that for my religious tradition as well. So for many of you, you may believe that there is something beyond this world. And many of you may come out of a Catholic tradition and you may not believe that. And I'm not, or Judaism. There are many people, you all saw Fiddler on the Roof. Okay, you all remember Fiddler on the Roof?
Yes.
And when he looks up and he sees not Frumacera, he sees the grandma, okay? And he talks to her. And all of a sudden I forgot her name, and I've sang those words for 50 years, but all right. But he looks up and he says, oh, yeah, like she's really there listening to him. And even within my tradition, there is a perspective that says there is something beyond this world. And there is within all traditions perspectives. Yes and no. And guess what? From my point of view, they're all correct. If that brings meaning to your life, I am not here to try to change your mind. I live in a family. My wife and I have been married 58 years. It's a long time. She believes in a life beyond this world. And she's Jewish. And I'm Jewish. And I don't believe in a life beyond this world. But we've been able to get along. She doesn't try to, oh yeah, she does try to convince me. She doesn't try to convince me and I don't try to convince her. We have to live our lives because of what it is that we believe. So the second task for us after grieving is to wonder at the mystery of this world. Third task for all is to remember who she was in her highest moments of living. And as you shared with me, there were many high moments of her living. And that's what's sweet about this moment. And lastly, and I say this to the younger people here, I'm not trying to thank you too. I'm not trying to exclude anybody else, but for the younger people who are here, you have a task, and that is to emulate who she was. You have to take some aspect of her life and live it and teach it. It's wonderful that a baby is here. He will never remember this day. On the other hand, he may be influenced by this day if you're willing to share some of that with him and who she was. And maybe he will help to keep her memory alive. And I think that's what this day is about. Third thing I want to share with you, and this is especially, I'm trying to be instructive. She was in a special place in American Jewish history. Like my parents. My grandparents came here from Eastern Europe. Your grandparents came here from Eastern Europe. It's important that you remember that. And they didn't come here to have a better life. Well, they did. They didn't come here because the streets were paved with gold, because they knew they would. They came here to escape the anti-Semitism of the 19th century. My grandfather came here from Ukraine. He came here and he brought with him his 2 clarinets, which I still have. And he brought here his history of being a klezmer musician, and that's how he made his living. But he came here to escape the pogroms of Eastern Europe. And we cannot forget that. And first generation people who were born here, your father, your aunt, they had a special thing placed on their shoulders, and that was to secure the freedom that their parents came here to find. And lastly, they knew that for their children and their nieces and nephews, there was another responsibility, and that is not to forget what happened and why they came here. So that while anti-Semitism was a part of 19th century and 20th century, unfortunately, it's still with us. Sometimes it raises its ugly head, and all of us have to work to change that in this world, because that's what the grandparents came here to find. So I want to share some thoughts with you also about who she was. In her own time, I did not know her, obviously, but I've been moved by the things that have been shared with me. They've been shared by her POA. They've been shared by niece. And it's important that we remember what those pieces were about. Her home was not here. Her home was New York. And when you said, where were you in New York? Her home wasn't the city. Her home was the Bronx or Brooklyn or wherever. That was her home. And it took an enormous amount of courage on her part to come to this place. And whether it was to be closer to family, however close she could be, or whether it was to be in a place where she might be safer than what she would have been in New York, it was important for her and for her loved ones that she came here. But she didn't just leave New York. She left an important part of this world that she left behind. As a teacher, as a counselor. That was her life's work. And it was important for her. And I'm sure that for her, she gained strength from trying to influence the lives of those who she worked with. She tried to make a difference for them. And while she didn't have her own children, that's true, she didn't biologically have children. She had her children. Those were the children that she worked with and counseled. tried to help them find something good and strong in their own lives. It's also important for us to recognize that it took bravery for her to do that. It's also important for us to recognize that she cared about the softer sides of life. She liked music. She liked dance. And it's important for us to remember those things. And art. Those are the soft sides of life that make life important for us when we go through difficult times. She loved to play the piano. That, when you think about that, you think about what she played and how she played. Whether she was a concert pianist or not isn't important. What's important is you hear her playing the piano. And that's another memory you have. She loved to travel. She especially liked to visit Israel. And that's important, especially during this last year. We don't know what will happen in the future. But we do know that for us, for many of us as Jews, Israel is a place of importance for us. We want Israel to be secure. And she did. She loved to go to the Hamptons. That's what you just said to me. The Hamptons. Go to New York, go to the Hamptons. I know. We have some very good friends in New York. Saw them for dinner last week. Oh, we're leaving tomorrow for the Hamptons. She was a health and fitness person. Maybe that's why you had a good relationship with her as her doctor, because it's important not just to have a doctor, but to have a doctor who cares about all of those issues, health and fitness, and what it is that we eat. You said to me, you have a lasting memory of your last memory of her. How are you? I'm splendid. Not to be honest with you, I've never heard anybody say that before. But, okay, but that's something that's unique about her.
Right.
And I think it's wonderful that you mentioned that to me. Well, Bill gave me these 2 emails sent from members of your family. And I thought I would share them. Kathleen wrote, the gesture message is as follows. Claire was always full of stories of New York and her time as a teacher. She talked often of her love for music and piano. She always extended her gratitude toward local art. She will be missed, but we find comfort knowing that she will reunite with her family and loved ones. And Sabrina wrote, and Claire were swaying back and forth and side to side, holding my hand. We were dancing to Moonlight Serenade. I was 5. I can still picture you. You were teaching me how to live life. Still holding my hands, smiling at me and the world. We danced a lot that night. You were beautiful, a beautiful young woman who loved to dance. I will forever cherish that memory, and that song will forever be Aunt Claire's Moonlight Serenade. With love, your great niece, Sabrina. And I'm sure that there are other thoughts and other memories that you as her family and friends will think about in days to come. And I hope and pray that you will take those thoughts and those memories and keep them alive, because that's what gives those of us who miss people who are gone, give them a sense of immortality. I think this is an appropriate way to end this short eulogy. And maybe she will have wanted it this way. I know that it was her thought to be here in a traditional cemetery. It was important to her. So she wrote, the poet wrote, when I die, if you need to weep, cry for someone walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around others and give them what you need to give me. You can love me most by sharing your joys and multiplying your good deeds. You can love me most by letting me live in your eyes and not in your mind. And when you say Kaddish for me, which you won't say, but those of us who know Kaddish will say, because it's an act that mourners say. When you say Kaddish for me, remember what our tradition teaches. Love doesn't die. People do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. I think it's important that we remember her in that way. And it is in that spirit then that we resolve to face our grief. Without self-pity, but with bravery and integrity. Keeping before us forever the blessings that God conferred upon us in this life that He but lent to us for these many, many decades. And in a world where our most precious goods are perishable, let us resolve to honor our beloved dead by being so good to the living, so kindly, so understanding, so forgiving, so transcendent of pettiness, that in our love for her we shall hearken to those who remain, meet us in our strength. May it be through new relationships and new service to humanity. Bless the beauty of her life. Let her abide among us all as a living, loving benediction. Adonai Natan, Adonai Lakach. Yehi Shem Adonai Mevarach, V'Atavi Adonai. God has given. God has taken away. Praise be the name of God, now and forevermore. Let us all say together. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we will remember her. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we will remember her. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we will remember her. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we will remember her. In the blueness of the sky and in the heat of the summer, we will remember her. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we will remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember her. We are lost and sick at heart, we will remember her. When we have joys we yearn to share, we will remember her. When we have decisions that are difficult to make, we will remember her. When we have achievements based on hers, we will remember her. So long as we live, she too shall live. For she now is a part of us. We will remember her. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher yatzar etchem b'tzamo v'zan kilkel etchem b'tuvo, v'mit etchem b'din v'natah b'tochechem chayei olam. Baruch atah Adonai, dayan ha'emet. We praise you, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who forms us in the divine image, who nourishes and sustains us in your goodness, causing all of us to die, planting immortal life within us. Praise you, O God, the judge of truth. Tagibor le'olam Adonai Rav le'oshia mechalkel chaim b'chesed mechayei hakol b'rachamim rabim. Eternal is your might, O God. All life is your gift. Great is your power to save. With love you sustain the living. Great compassion you give life to all. You send help to the falling and healing to the sick. You bring freedom to the captive and keep faith with those who sleep in the dust. We praise you, O God, who implants eternal life in us. Barak velafar tashva, dasva arti to dasva shatu. Chomerat el chomer tashva, clay thou art into the clay of the earth thou shalt return. Ruach ata, ruach Elohim tashva. Spirit art thou. With the Spirit of God we commit your soul. Stay. In Jewish tradition, it is considered to be an act of love and kindness to bury the dead. Those of you who would like to participate in this mitzvah, this act of kindness, we're free to step forward with this stone, knowing full well that we will cover the casket. And if we don't do that ourselves, then people from the cemetery will.
Can we put our flowers on them?
You can do whatever you want. You can come and do that now. Okay? Then the cemetery staff will fill in the grave to cover the casket. Yeah, after this.
It's just checking.
And I'll do an Elmole too. Is that all right? You didn't ask about that.
You got it.
Thank you. Here are those emails. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for reading. Of course.
Right? Scare them off. Corner inside.
Thank you guys very much. The dust returns to the earth as it was. The spirit returns to God who gave it. It is only the house of the spirit which we have laid within the bosom of the earth, but the spirit itself cannot die. Here too our dear ones continue to remain in the hearts of those who will remember them. Receive in mercy, O God, the soul of our beloved Claire Beleskowitz. Grant her that everlasting peace which you have prepared for us in the world to come. Though no human eye has seen nor ear has heard, the mind has compassed it, still it is our sure inheritance and our everlasting portion now and forevermore. You remember at the beginning of the service, I said that there are certain obligations that mourners have. And none of us is a mourner, and yet we are all mourners. So I want to call upon us to say the words of Kaddish. Those of you who know it, please say it with me. But it is something that never mentions death. It only talks about God and God's goodness. And so I would ask us all to rise, that we might recite the words that have been hallowed by centuries. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, yalma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, chaye chonu v'yomei chaye defo beit Yisrael, bagalau v'zman kariv yimro amen, yehei shemei rabbah mevorach, leolam u'leolmei olmaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, Yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal, Shmei dekudsha b'richu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, Tushbechata v'nechemata, Amiran v'yalma v'yimru amen. Yehei shalom araba min shemaya v'chayim, Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'mrama, Ya'aseh shalom, Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Ilmale rachamim shochin b'amrumi. Amatzei menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashekhinah. Im kadoshim utahorim kazohar harakim asirim. Et nishmat chaya bat beryl v'shifra. Shehalacha le'olama. Ba'al harachamim. Yastireh b'seter k'nafav le'olamim. V'yitzror b'tzror ha'chaim et nishmata. Dunai hu nechalata v'yanuach b'shalom. Al mishkarav and nomar. God, full of compassion, eternal spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest to Claire Beleskowitz, who has entered into eternity. God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence, and let her soul be bound up in the bonds of eternal life. Be thou her possession. May her repose ever be peace. Departed, whom we now remember, has been called unto the peace of life eternal. She shall still live on earth in the acts of goodness she has performed, and in the hearts of those who will ever cherish her memory. We pray that the beauty of her life will ever abide among us all as a living and loving benediction. And may the source of peace send peace unto all you who mourn. May God comfort all the bereaved among us, in Israel, and among all the nations, and the families of earth. And let us all say together. Amen. Claire, Lech Yishalach Adonai, go your way. God has called you. Lech Adonai yiyeh imach, go your way, and may God be with you. Halach lefanecha tzidkecha kavod Adonai yasveh. Righteousness go before you. The glory of God receive you. So all say together. Amen. Let's conclude our service.
Thank you for